What up, y'all? This is your girl, Coach Niqua T on the beat, and you are now tuning into the Spacious podcast, where healing meets transparency and faith meets mental health. And on today's episode, we getting into a topic that I know for sure y'all gonna like it. And this is for my ladies, and this is also to give some insight to the men. But today I am speaking on behalf of the unfeminine women. I'm speaking on behalf the unfeminine woman. Because, in today's society, we hear a lot, all the women they getting into their feminism and all that good stuff, which is a good thing. It is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. We hear a lot of women saying soft life these days. It has become a popular phenomenon in our society. And once again, this is a good thing. But what about the woman that is still understanding how to channel that inner woman, how to channel that feminine side of herself? What about her? What about the woman that wants to be in the place where she feels secure with even being feminine, feels secure with just being a whole woman overall? That is the woman that I want to speak on behalf on today. And that is the woman that I want to give a voice to, because I myself I can identify with this part of the woman. I can identify with her. I can identify with you, sis, in a way. So let's get into it. So today I just want to give you all some context here. Speaking from a woman that's still learning how to be feminine and be not just feminine, but be confident in being feminine. Because it's not that it's not there, it's just more so being confident in who you are and being confident in who God has called you to be, and just being confident, period. So I myself, I grew up. I did not. I was not a fan of like dresses and being extra prissy, if I want to say that. Um, I didn't grow up being that way. I was more so the girl that liked to wear the basketball shorts. I like to wear my overalls because I'm a 90s kid. So I used to like to wear my overalls with the one latch on the side. Like that was me. That was me when I was a kid. And whenever it was time for, like, my mom used to tell me, like, show your legs, girl. Put on a bathing suit, put your little two-piece on. Like, I had the body for it. That wasn't an issue, but I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't comfortable with doing those things. It was even down to a point where I used to have more male friends as a kid than female friends. I used to love being around the boys. I used to love just being involved, running around, playing sports. Even though I still play with dolls, but I still love, I don't know, it was just parts of me that wanted to tap into just being around the boys all the time. And when you're a girl that grew up around a lot of boys, a lot of men, it just becomes a norm to you. But let's dig a little deeper here, because a lot of times we don't really understand, like, where does this come from? I know our men in society, they struggle with our women today, for those of the women that are very, I would say, masculine or just independent in a sense. And they don't quite understand or get why women are that way, or we just be so hard or be so aggressive. Because I've been in many conversations with men and they just say, like, the woman that's independent, she's very aggressive. And it's just like, well, have you ever sat down to understand why that woman is aggressive or why she is the way she is? And to give some attention and to some understanding and some background to that, like, a lot of women, young women, we grew up in a different kind of household. Some women, they grew up with they grew up in a single parent household where it was like their caregiver. Their caregiver could be their grandma, it could be their aunt, or it can be their mom, whoever that person was. They grew up in that environment, possibly in a single parent home. I know from my experience, I grew up in a single parent home. So in that space, you see another woman or another person. It could even be a male. Maybe a male was that woman's caregiver. You're in a household where it's just you're seeing this sense of independence that is there. You're seeing them take care of you, take care of the household, make sure there's food in the house, make sure the clothes is washed, make sure the dishes are done, make sure the house is upkept in general, make sure the bills are paid. And in those spaces, when you're seeing your mom or even your dad just making sure the responsibilities are taken care of, it's like, when do you have time to even be in touch with your emotions? Many women, they grew up in a household where they didn't see their mom really show their emotions. They didn't see that. So in turn, it's like they saw it as a normal thing to just be not show that vulnerable side. It's like you only see that vulnerable side when the bedroom door is closed, when you're in the bathroom by yourself because you might be in the back crying, or in the car when you're alone. It was only those times when you're alone that you really get to see that vulnerable side. So you have those type of women that learn to normalize masking their vulnerability. Now, for a feminine woman is more so she's comfortable with being vulnerable, but she also knows how to have self-control at the same time. Now, as I ponder on this, it's so many elements when it comes to vulnerability, because it, in many shapes or form, I've always been a woman that was in touch with her emotions. But at some point, that that part was at some point it was like it started to get detached from me. Just my experiences with people, my experiences in relationships. It wasn't comfortable to be vulnerable because there was a sense of lack of trust that was there. There was this sense of just feeling like I don't feel protected. I don't even feel protected to give you my emotions because I don't know what I'm going to receive on the other end. So there was this sense of fear that is there. So the unfeminine woman, she has a lot that she is processing mentally in her mind. She's processing like, can I really trust this person? Can I trust them to a point where I feel protected? And this is not even just with a man, but this is just with the person that they bring in close proximity of them. Because maybe in the past they have been violated in some way, shape, or form. Maybe they have been emotionally or physically abused. And as a whole, that is something that we should all take into consideration, instead of just falling into a place of just bashing the person, because we all got our stuff, but it's up to us to want to actually work past it and wanting to overcome it. So in my life in general, I know I came from a place where it was just like I didn't feel safe with people. I didn't feel safe with even friends that I had when I was much younger. And the fact that, when you don't tend to those types of things, it starts to build. It starts to build, and it grows and it grows and it grows until it gets too thick, to the point a person starts to self-sabotage relationships. because they don't feel comfortable with being around a person. And this also correlates because if we take it into the psychology side, there's this concept that's called attachment styles. It was created by one of the psychologists back in the day. Um, and one of the things that he talked about these different attachment styles. It's like three insecure attachment styles, and then you have the one that person that just insecure in all relationships. They feel a sense of security. They know how to have healthy boundaries. They know how to have healthy communication, and they know how to be healthy overall in relationships. So with these attachment styles, there's the one that's called the anxious person. They are the person they 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 desire to have a relationship with people, but they're fearful. So they don't know how to necessarily operate in those spaces. They always worried if that person is going to do them wrong. They're worried if they can actually trust them. Like they're just anticipating that something bad is going to happen because maybe in their life that's what they had all along. They're used to relationships just going wrong, even dating back to those in their childhood with their relationship with their parent or their caregiver. So they expect a lot, they give a lot, and they settle for a lot. That's the anxious person. They just an open-hearted person overall. And then you have the avoidant person. Now, this is the person they just avoid. They don't attach no emotions to anything. They're very emotional. They're emotionally unavailable, basically. Those are the avoidant people because they feel threatened. It goes back to that sense of fear. They fear being in relationships. They fear being intimate with somebody, like, and that could come from a place in their past too, and it all correlates back to the relationship with their parents. Like that is the root. That is the first relationship that we have, is with our parents. And however that relationship is nurtured, that determines how your relationships will operate in the future. Because in some way, shape, or form, you may consciously or unconsciously think about, well, how do I operate in relationships? Like you're gonna think about to that relationship that you had with your parent or your caregiver. And then you have the person that is disorganized. This is the third insecure person. This person, they give off mixed signals. They just scared of everything. Like this is the person that is anxious and avoidant. So they are fearful of relationships. They want to be intimate with somebody, but they don't know how to go about it. So when their mind is just all over the place and they don't know how to necessarily express what their wants and needs are, then they just start emotionally just being outrageous, basically. They just unpredictable, going off on people. You don't even know why they're going off on them. And that's how it is. So I wanted to explain this to you because once again, I wanted to give you some context because um when I look back over my life and just going through school and learning about attachment styles, I understood that I was operating in an anxious, it's almost like anxious avoidant, basically. I think I dealt with both of them. But it's like operating in that anxious attachment style, it caused me to have like a distrust with people. So I would real deal mask that feminine side of me because I know how soft and how delicate that was. I would allow people to basically cross my boundaries and take advantage of me because I didn't want them to dip out on my life. And as a feminine woman, there is a way that we are to have this poisedness about us. There is a way that we are supposed to show how to actually have healthy boundaries with somebody without being aggressive. And and standing firm and being confident in it. Like, confidence is a huge piece when it comes to being a feminine woman. But if a woman has been through different things and she hasn't healed to a certain point where she's ready to show that softer side of her, she's gonna show that aggressive side. She's just gonna show it point blank, period, no doubt about it. Because that is her protective mechanism. That is her bodyguard to her heart. Like, the unfeminine woman is literally being her own bodyguard because she never had nobody to stand up and protect her when she needed protection. So, and I want y'all to take that in, like, real deal, take that in. Just think about the women that you have in your life, or even yourself. Um, think about, tap into that place where you may feel like I do always feel like I have to be the bodyguard for myself. And it's like, why? That's the question. Why? And it's like, are you going to continue to have this mask on? Because let's be real, we promote these things on social media about being a feminine woman, but how many of you are actually operating and living it? It takes one thing to make a post and say it, but are you actually living it? Are you actually taking the necessary steps and being honest? Because it's one thing to cling on to something, but if you're just clinging on just because it's a trend, then are you truly being honest with yourself? Are you truly being honest with yourself? That's something to think about too. I'm just talking with y'all today. I ain't, usually y'all, I'm gonna let y'all in on too. Usually I'll have a whole script to go about what I'm gonna say, but today I just really did want to talk to y'all, and I always speak for an honest place, but today I want to speak from an honest and vulnerable place because I am literally like going through this process right now. And a lot of times we like to wait till the process is over to talk about it, but I think it's, this is a gracious space, it's a safe space. So it's like we could talk about these things right now. So to the unfeminine woman that is just pushing right now, I want you to stand in your truth, because a lot of times we feel like we have to skip steps because we want to appease the next person that may have told us, like, you're not feminine enough, you too aggressive, you're doing too much. I want you to stand in your truth, because once you start to actually stand in your truth and start to own up in it, like, that woman is going to come out. That woman that you visualize, that woman that you picture yourself being, she is going to come out. But you have to face it. You have to face where you are right now. And that takes a level of being vulnerable, like being vulnerable with yourself. Because when you are a person that just being so aggressive, that's just been such in a place of being defensive and being offensive towards people, you forget how to even be vulnerable with yourself. And if I had to be quite honest, that is something that I lost sight of. I lost sight of at some point just being vulnerable with myself. It wasn't even about other people. It was about being vulnerable with myself and where I am right now, because it's easy to fall into this place of performing because you want to make sure you meeting or you're at a certain level. So to the woman that is learning how to actually overcome and truly be this soft and feminine woman, it starts with being you. People pleasing is not your portion, honey. It is not. Because to be quite honest, how far has people pleasing gotten you? How far has being aggressive gotten you? How far has having up this brick wall, how far has it gotten you? because you think you're protecting yourself from other people, which you are to a certain extent, but in the end, you're stabbing your own self in the back. And from a woman to another, that's something that I had to learn. So many of you probably asking, well, how do I get on the other side of this? How do I get on the other side of this? It's a process. But I will say this, it starts with being vulnerable with yourself. Being vulnerable, understanding who you are right now, getting to know you right now, those parts about you that are beautiful. Because when you start to embrace those parts of you, then you're going to start to cultivate that softer side of you. As you start to shed off those layers and being honest, being vulnerable, learning how to even trust yourself, learning how to even, let's be quite honest, learning how to trust God, then you start to scope into that woman. When you learn how to even actually submit to him, you won't even have a problem with being submissive. Now, a lot of y'all, that's a curse word. Submissive is a curse word to some of y'all. And that's another topic for another day. I'm not even gonna go there with y'all. But I want you all to start being vulnerable with where you are. Not because of what society says or what your mama said, what your daddy said, what your auntie, grandma, your cousin, your brothers, that man that broke your heart, that friend that betrayed you. It's not about them. It's about you being free, being confident in who you are. So, yeah, that's all I got for y'all today. And I pray that just even with me just being open and honest with you today, that you grab something from it. You grab something from it that will help you on your journey of tapping it into your inner self and just being the woman that God called you to be, not nobody else. And even you. So y'all know what to do. Make sure y'all stay connected with your girl, Coach Nikwa T. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, let them know where to come. Welcome into the community. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at _Spacious Podcast and also Gracious Space as well at _Gracious Space. So, as always, y'all, so show yourself some grace, okay? This is a prolonged journey that we are all on, and it takes one day at a time, literally. So, this is a message from your girl, Coach Nikwa T. We out.